Aloha, everyone.
Hi.
Hi. I hope that we're on live. I'm pretty sure we are. Happy Thanksgiving if you are able to see this video. I'm Athena Moberg, and this is Bobby Parrish, and we are your trauma recovery coaches.
Hi, everybody. We hope that you're having a good holiday. And we know that holiday times can be stressful for survivors. There's so much wrapped up in our expectations and our emotions and dealing with the family that we wanted to give you some special tips and strategies on how to cope with family holidays, particularly in regards to Thanksgiving. So that's why we're here tonight, and that's what we're going to do.
Yes. And one of our favorite topics to talk about, as you guys know, if you've been keeping track with us and attending our weekly broadcasts, you know that one of our favorite topics to talk about is healthy boundaries.
That's right.
Now, you know that we, Bobby and I, in our years of trauma recovery coaching and just going through the recovery process ourselves, and Bobby, of course, being a therapist, myself being a coach, we absolutely subscribe to the idea and the truth that without healthy boundaries, it is absolutely impossible for you to have a successful recovery process. So, without further ado, we are just going to jump right into our content, and we're going to keep this video about half the length of all of our other videos. So only about 30 minutes long or less. And we're going to jump right in, and we are going to talk about boundaries, and we are specifically going to unpack how it is that you allow others to treat you
Yes.
physically by coming in contact with your body. Do you allow people to hug you or not? And how will you allow other people to communicate with you? So, Bobby, why don't we go ahead and unpack that one?
You bet. Sometimes your family may have just a tradition on how they greet one another. Maybe everybody who comes through the door gets a huge hug. Maybe they all get a kiss. Maybe, your cousin gives you a headlock and rubs on your head. It's okay to change those. It's okay to say, hey, put your hand out as a way to say stop. Don't want to do that this year. Maybe there are some people that you're willing to hug and others that you're not, and that's okay. One of the things that Athena and I really want you to know is that you're in charge. And we say this over and over again. You didn't have any power when you were a child, but you have power now, and we want you to be empowered to use it. So it's perfectly okay not to do the traditional family stuff anymore. And, put your hand out or move to the side, whatever it is that you need to do to remove yourself from that uncomfortable hug or that person who violates physical boundaries all the time when they give you a hug. Um,
Yeah. I also have an example, like I usually do, of a real life example of what this looks like in my family. Now, it's not so much the greeting that is a problem for me, although there are hugs that go on, and usually my mom likes to pat me on the butt, which I really just don't really care for, but it's almost like a term of endearment. It's like a thing that she does that she thinks is really sweet, and like I'm her little 5-year-old girl, which I
uh,
never really was.
right.
But another example besides getting past the greeting process is if you have certain family members that like to sit really close to you, or they
Yes,
have
yes.
a habit of maybe tickling you. Like my dad,
Oh,
for instance, bless my dad's heart, he is just, I am his little tomboy, his perpetual forever. I'm, 5 years old, 7, 10 years
yeah,
old
yeah,
tomboy
yeah.
who used to work on the car with him and polish his rims and help him rebuild motors. And I was on his pit crew when he was doing drag racing and all that. But guess what? I'm a 40-year-old woman now,
Yeah.
and I don't like to be tickled. I don't like to be touched, not while I'm driving, not while I'm sitting, not while I'm eating, not while I'm doing anything. I don't like to be touched. Please know that it's okay for you to change
Yep.
these rules and these traditions in your family, especially if you are just recently having memories for the very first time or just processing memories. And you
Right.
don't have to have an excuse whatsoever, do they, Bobby? They can just decide
Nope.
to change the tradition, and people can try to make you feel awkward, like, oh, well, excuse me, little miss, I'm not going to hug anybody anymore, little miss anti-social, Mr. whatever, I'm going to
You're
boss
so
everybody
good at
around,
that. That's so
right?
true.
Oh, but I mean, you can't make this stuff up. I'm used
No.
to it. So anyhow, Bobby, go
Yes.
ahead and we can
Yes.
move on to the next, since we're going to be moving pretty rapid fire today.
Yes.
But I
Yes.
just wanted to give people permission. You don't need a reason,
Exactly.
a rhyme
Nope,
or
you don't have to
reason.
explain yourself. You do
Yeah,
not have to explain yourself.
nope,
Justify why, none of it. It's your right to choose and it's your right to change.
yep.
Um, so the next one in terms of boundaries is talking about how you will allow people to communicate with you. And that means, um, do you want people to communicate with you with raised voices? Do you want people to communicate with you when they're cursing and swearing, condescending tones of voices, placating, all of those things? It's okay to say, you know what, um, you can't yell at me. I don't want you to swear at me, and it's okay to say, not taken for that anymore, and removing yourself from the situation. Go into the other room. Go into the dining room. Switch. Go talk to say, oh, I've got to find my mother. And we'll talk a little bit later on down the page about disengagement strategies. But it's absolutely okay to say, not even if it's something that has been tolerated in your family for 50 years, it's okay to say, nope, not me, not anymore. Does that make
So
sense, Athena?
yeah, I have a question. Like
Okay.
just on that topic, moving on to what it looks like in real life, of course. So what if certain family members, like on Thanksgiving, since this is our Thanksgiving broadcast, what
Right.
if they like to sit around and drink alcohol and watch football, and they like to curse at the television, or they like to say "son of a bitch" or "Jesus Christ" and all that? And maybe
Yeah.
you are a person of faith, and maybe all of a sudden you're realizing, wow, I really just don't like the way that sounds or the way that makes me feel.
Right.
I just feel sort of
Right.
disgusting and gross, like by association.
Right.
What would you say people should perhaps do? Could they just silently get up and just decide to leave the room and go read a book somewhere, maybe go for a walk or
Exactly.
or or something else, or just go grab themselves a glass of wine and exit stage right?
That's right. Or leave.
Yeah, or wow, it sure is getting late. I just for some reason I'm just not feeling well, and we're going to move on to disengagement
Right.
strategies. And we don't
Right.
want you to be out of integrity with yourself and lying like,
Right.
oh,
Right. We
I
don't
need
want
to
to
go. I
promote
have
you to be dishonest.
TikTok, I'm out of here. I have another appointment if you really don't. But we do want to give you permission to not allow people to speak to you the
Right.
same way they've always spoken to you. And I say this every time we talk about boundaries: as you choose to show up differently in the world, other people choose to show up differently also. You
Yes.
set a boundary, you stand up to someone in a polite, respectful way, or not so polite and respectful, depending on how your style is, or if your family is like the screaming family. You
Right.
know, as you show up differently in the world, other people show up differently as well, and they'll end up thanking you for it later on more than you think they will. At least
Right.
that's what happened
Because
to me. It was a
that's
shocker.
right. You'll never know how many other people are uncomfortable with the swearing and the yelling and the cursing until you stand up for it, and then they go, "Wow, I'm so glad you did that. I've hated that for years. It makes me so uncomfortable." Um,
Yeah.
so yes, absolutely okay. One thing in my family that I always tend to do is put myself on kitchen duty, because usually that's a kind of, a head down, I do what I'm doing, I'm washing dishes or something, and that keeps me out of the room where all the football playing is, and I don't mind it at all. So that was one way that I always escaped in my family. Um, so along that line, another thing that you can do, another strategy that we have to share with you, is limiting contact. There may be people there at your family Thanksgiving. Your abuser might even be there. It just depends on the scenario, and we want to acknowledge that if your abuser is there, there may be someone you may want to have limited contact with him or her, and that's okay to do. It's okay to determine who are safe people that you can engage with, and who is someone that when they walk in the room, you walk out of the room. They're sitting at the dining room table, you go sit at the kids' table. Whatever you want to do, whoever you want to limit contact with, that's okay. It's absolutely okay. And it can also be, if it's not your abuser, maybe it's someone who facilitated your abuse. So it's the sister that looked the other way, the mother that looked the other way, the partner that looked the other way while you were being abused. Anybody that you want to limit contact with, limit contact with. It's okay.
Hey, Bobby,
Okay.
what
Yes.
if someone, what if someone in the family decides to get upset with you for having that healthy boundary, and they want to say, well, you ruined Christmas or you ruined Thanksgiving. Sorry, this isn't our Christmas broadcast yet, my bad. So you ruined Thanksgiving by making this all about you. It's not all about you, little Missy. This is
Yeah.
about the family. This is about the family. This isn't all about you. How would you say would be an excellent way for someone to respond to that? I have a couple of opinions of my own, but I would like to hear what yours are.
To that kind of comment, I would say, I'm sorry that you feel that way. That's not my intention, but I need to do this for myself and my well-being. So I'm not going to change the way that I'm doing it just because you don't like it.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like to remember when we were doing our hour-long broadcast that we
Uh-huh.
had last time about boundaries. One of
Yes.
my favorite things that you guys know that I love, and we'll probably mention this in our show notes or perhaps even the one page. And what I love to do is I love to pause and say, when you talk to me that way, and when you say those types of things to me,
Yes. Yes.
I feel very frustrated and misunderstood because it is not my intention to have anyone feel that anything is all about me. However, I need to communicate to you that I need to feel safe. And I would feel safer and more comfortable if I moved over here to this side of the table or over to that room where the kids are.
Right.
And if you're making it, if you're using I statements and you're not
Right.
going, well, you always act
Right.
this way, and you've always said those things to me, and you're saying this, then they're going to sort of, whoa, 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 like they're going to feel like you're backing them into a corner, which
Right.
that's probably not your intention, and it's not going to warrant the response that you would like for it to warrant. So I always, like Bobby and I have shared several times before, and I've even helped family members with this actually. If you're using I statements, I feel this is a
Right.
good choice for me.
Right.
I am sorry that you feel that way. This is how I feel, and I really need this for myself right now. You're
Yeah.
communicating your need.
Right.
And it's terrifying to communicate your needs to your family sometimes because, as Bobby and I were talking about off the air, every single person in every single family has a role they play. And when you have codependency or generational dysfunction that's been passed down from generation to generation, your role might have always been the placater or the one who makes everything fine. Don't upset the apple cart. Don't make
Right.
waves.
Right.
Don't bring attention to yourself. You want to really just stay invisible. And if you're having a healthy boundary, you're no longer invisible. So it could really throw a wrench in your mix and make you not want to have a healthy boundary. And then you might fall right back into that role that you used to
Right.
play. And we are not condemning you. We just want to encourage you and empower you to be healthy and have healthy boundaries during this Thanksgiving holiday.
You bet. You bet. And we want to acknowledge that just because you say it well doesn't mean your family's going to respond well. You can practice for 800 days saying, coming up with a statement that you think is healthy and kind and respectful, but you cannot have the expectation that that means that your family is going to respond well to it.
Correct.
So,
Especially it's worth mentioning, Bobby, that during these times of the years, during holidays, it's an emotionally charged
yep,
time. And we should
yep,
also mention that if your abuser is not going to be at Thanksgiving dinner, and that's not something you have to worry about, perhaps your abuser died, which is something we studied in week 2 of our weekly broadcast that we do. And if your abuser has died and you're going to Thanksgiving thinking, finally, I can kind of go to a family function and feel sort of great about the whole thing, and then
yeah,
you get to your family function and everyone decides they want to go around the table and say something nice about Uncle Joe, and Uncle Joe was the one who molested you when you were 7, then, it's okay for you to have that healthy boundary, perhaps step away from the little memoriam that everybody's
right,
going to do, or this
right,
tribute or what have you. Because that could be, and we will talk a little bit about that right when we go through our declaring certain topics that are off limits. We're going to talk about
Yes, exactly.
disengagement strategies, which one that I know is one of my favorites is excusing yourself to go to the restroom and perhaps
Right.
texting that safe person. So
Yes.
why don't I'll go ahead and stay in line with our agenda, Bobby. Why don't we move right along with developing disengagement strategies, unless I missed something on the topics that are off limits. I forgot about topics that are off limits.
Yes, and that you did an excellent example right there. There are some things that you may not want to discuss, and it can be about your abuse. It can be about a family situation. It can be anything that you don't want to discuss. And this is particularly true with families, because families may have an idea or a belief that, by golly, they're going to hold on to, no matter how unhealthy it is or how wrong it is or how deceptive it is, for all it's worth, because it makes them feel better. They don't want to acknowledge that Uncle Joe was a pedophile. They don't want to acknowledge that he molested 7 of the 8 cousins in the family, because it's too hard for them to face. It's okay for you to say, you know what, Mom? You know what, Aunt Sue? I don't want to talk about Uncle Joe. Let's talk about something else, and change the topic. It's perfectly fine at any point to set any discussion boundaries that you want to about topics you don't want to discuss. And you're not going to fight about it. You're not going to argue about it. You're just going to state, I'm sorry, I don't want to talk about that. And Athena, who has her wonderful strategies of, when you ask me to talk about, and the if-then, that's an excellent strategy to employ too. But the point of it is, you get to set the boundary, and you get to walk away from the conversation if they refuse to honor your boundaries.
I have a little bonus tip on that little topic, Bobby, as we're moving right along on our content here. I would like to propose to some of our viewers and listeners right now that if you are a member of one of those types of families that are yellers, and they like to yell a lot, and they say, but we're Italian, that's what we do, we yell. We're from New York, that's what we do, we yell. It's okay for you to not be a yeller. I just wanting to let you know that it's okay for you to say, you know what, I know that we come from a long line of yellers, and that's what we do, but for some reason, I feel really uncomfortable for some reason when everyone's yelling. It sets me on edge. I would prefer if you lowered your voice. It's okay for you to communicate your preference.
Yep, it is okay. It is okay. So right along with that comes the topic that we've kind of broached on a couple of times, is disengagement strategies. And that's what Athena talked about. When someone is trying to engage in a topic you don't want to discuss, or the voices are getting loud and they're not responding to your request to lower the voice, or the swearing is, just getting awful, or, one of your uncles becomes drunk and wants to sit down next to you and throw his arms around you. Here are some strategies that you can use to disengage with them. So Athena, you mentioned the I have to get up and go do something else now. Let's see. Or there's
we can talk again later.
Yes.
Yeah,
there's
we can talk again later. I'll be back.
Yep, I'll be back. Exactly. Or, you know what? I forgot about a phone call I need to make. I have to go wish so-and-so a happy Thanksgiving.
Ooh, I have a bonus strategy.
Yes.
What I have done several times in the last few years is, when I am approaching a family situation, when I arrive, like upon greeting everyone, I let them know, at some point during the day, I'm going to have to step away for just a few minutes, and I have a phone call to make. I just wanted to let you know ahead of time.
I like that. And that way you set up that disengagement strategy for yourself. And it's okay too, when you are going to a family event, if you know that you're only going to be able to tolerate a couple of hours, it's perfectly fine when you show up to say, and obviously we don't want you to be deceitful, so you do need to set something else up. But to say,
yes.
I'm meeting my friend Joanna in 3 hours. She wants to spend some time with me today, so just want to let you know I'll only be able to be here for 3 hours.
Yes.
And then when those 3 hours are up, honor what you said. and go
Yes.
ahead and leave.
You are setting yourself up for success when you
That's
do
right.
that. You're
Exactly. And
setting
that's what
yourself
we
up for
want.
success. You're
Yes.
preemptively planning ahead of time that you're going to make different healthy choices that you haven't always made. And as you make these healthier choices and you show up in a different way, you're going to feel better. You're going to feel different, and other people are going to start treating you differently. So
Yes.
just
Yes.
keep those bonuses and those strategies in mind, especially when it's about disengaging. Disengaging is key. It's also a really, if you'll notice, all successful people that have successful lives, people that lead healthy lives, they have no problem in communicating their needs. They have no problem in communicating their preferences. Like, you'll notice people that are healthier, like CEOs or like people that are in business meetings. I'm sort of a people watcher, and so I've noticed these things like in different business meetings I've been in. And they're the type of people, when you're sitting at the table or you're at a meeting, they're the type of people that will like hail down the waitress in some sort of a way, and you're like, wow, I would definitely never be the type of person to hail down the waitress or the waiter, because
Right.
I wouldn't want them to think that I'm rude, and I wouldn't want to be in the way, and I wouldn't want to be a nuisance, and
Right.
I'm not worth asking if I could please have water with no ice because I'm afraid they're going to say no. So, but really, like, challenge yourself in these situations with your family. Challenge yourself in the posture that you have, and are you presenting yourself? Are you sitting up straight? Are you confident, or are you sort of like slouching a little bit and making yourself easy prey because you're looking insecure? You know, predators go after insecure people, and I hate to say it, but our families are filled with predators occasionally if you come from a dysfunctional family. So
Right.
perhaps walk a little taller, act a little different, and say, oh, you know what? I know that I always eat 2 or 3 helpings of turkey in previous Thanksgivings, but I'm really watching my cholesterol right now. I think I'm just going to have 1 helping. No, thank you for trying to put food on my plate, Aunt Jan. I realize you always put food on my plate every single year, but I would prefer that you didn't put food on my plate. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Um,
It's a big deal.
it is a big deal, and you can't expect people to react differently to you. You know, family systems, I always describe this to my client, that family systems are like a solar system, and they orbit and they revolve around each other. When you change, you are changing your orbit. You're changing the way you rotate, and that can knock some of the other planets in your family system out of whack as well. So that's why sometimes they respond unkindly, because they don't like change. They don't want to be in a different orbit. But by the same token, there are going to be people who have been waiting to be in a different orbit for years, and they're going to be so thankful that you knocked the family system a kilter a bit so they too can have a different orbit that's healthier. Um,
Yes.
so let's go ahead and look at the next piece, which is emotions. I know that
Ooh, this is a good
there are,
one.
yes,
This is a
there
good
are
one.
times that we have determined ahead of time how we think we're going to feel when we come into contact with family members. And yet then we get there and we feel this odd, conflicting emotional mishmash of, oh, it's great to see my dad, but oh, I'm scared of seeing my dad. And yet family emotions that you may not have felt in a long time. Maybe it's anger, maybe it's grief, maybe it's sadness, maybe it's a longing to,
Yeah, and maybe it's an old thing that you used to feel. Like Bobby, like you were talking about, remember we were talking the other day about how when I went for a drive and I was thinking, oh my gosh, I really just want to give him a call. Like,
yeah,
shouldn't I be past this already? I shouldn't be wanting to
yeah,
give him a call. Like, I set a healthy boundary. Why do I want to call? And I was sort of beating myself up a little bit, and we really
yeah.
want to encourage you to not beat yourself up. I didn't mean to
No,
cut you off, Bobby. I had a little
no,
bit of
no,
a delay.
no, no. That's an
Um,
excellent example.
you were talking about emotions that you're used to feeling.
Right. Um, and one thing that we really want to make sure that we communicate to you is there are no emotions that are good or bad to feel. Anger, most of us were raised in families, when we're survivors, we were raised in families where we were taught that anger is a bad thing. Feeling angry is not a bad thing. Feeling upset is not a bad thing. Feeling ashamed is not a bad thing. It's what you allow those feelings to drive you to do that can be wrong. So it's okay to feel angry. It's not okay to take a baseball bat and bash in your brother's head. So there's a difference.
Yeah.
So be prepared for feelings to come up that maybe you didn't expect, and don't beat yourself up about feeling that way. It doesn't mean you have to act on it. It's okay to want to go over and, give your dad a big hug and say, I've missed you. But that's that longing that we all have to have that perfect relationship with our mother or our father. Your father
Yeah.
still may not be a safe person to go up and throw your arms around and say, I've missed you so much, I just want to be close to you. But it's okay to feel that. It's okay to acknowledge that.
I have a bonus strategy that I've employed in this situation, if that's okay, Bobby.
Absolutely.
I know we're coming close to time because we're going to keep this at 30 minutes or under
Right.
for you all out there that are taking notes. We're going to real quick run through the list of things that we've talked about on this video today so that you can write them down, and we'll also have them in the show notes. We're going to develop a real short, brief little bulleted list for you to have to keep as well. But
Right.
the bonus strategy that I was going to talk about real quick, Bobby, that I've employed in this situation where I really wanted to go and hug a family member or spend time with a family member. I really wanted to say certain things. I really wanted to act a certain way. And I sort of was knowing that that would not be a healthy situation.
Right.
And I know that we think ahead of how we're going to be feeling. Like Bobby mentioned, we automatically are like, well, gosh, I'm going to feel this way and I'm going to plan it out this way. I have my girlfriend Joanna that I'm going to be meeting up with in 3 hours. So I'm only going to be there this way. We're setting ourselves up for success. We're sort of mentally preparing. And as survivors, we always love to be mentally prepared. We never like to be surprised because we're so used to the rug being ripped out from underneath us. But the bonus strategy that I have employed in this is previously, before all of our awesome little smartphones and stuff, right?
Right.
Previously, I used to have a little notepad and paper that I brought around in my purse. And I would sit and I would sort of, I would just write down some stuff that I was feeling. I would sort of take that moment. You're at a holiday. There's nothing to do. You're not at work. Usually that means that you have that time to yourself. You can go sit at the dining room table and decide that you're gonna write, or you can just sit and sort of doodle and draw some pictures or write some things. Now, what I've done is I've literally sat there and I've typed out the things that I was thinking, the things I wish that I could say. Is this a good idea? Is it not? And I've sort of gotten it out. And all they think I'm doing is texting. I mean, they're like, what is she doing? Oh, she's probably just texting someone, whatever. So anyway, use those things to your advantage.
Exactly. And the last thing that we really want to emphasize, and we've talked about this before in different hangouts, is the use of a safe person. So bring someone with you to the family holidays. Bring someone with you to Thanksgiving who you know is a safe person, who will help you. They'll support you when things don't go well. They'll help you disengage from situations that aren't healthy.
They're a buffer.
There you go. Maybe you can't bring someone with you. Have someone available on standby on the phone and let them know, I'm going to call you if I need some help, if I need some support. Because there are times that our family knocks us off kilter and they say or do things that make us go, wait a minute, is that right? Is that not right?
Yeah.
Is it true? And it's okay to say, you know what, just a minute. And call and say, my Uncle Joe just told me that I'm really selfish because I don't want to sit next to my father at the Thanksgiving table. Is that right? And I realize it sounds a little ridiculous when you put it that way, but interactions with a toxic family tend to make us think that things that we were really sure before we walked into that room that were true, now maybe we don't know whether or not they're true. And so it's okay, have that safe person. Let them give you a reality check.
Yep. And that's the perfect example, Bobby, and that's the perfect thing to wrap us up to the end of this video, which we are going to have all of the little bullet point lists down in the show notes for you. We might even put a list down there or a link to a downloadable resource that you can actually download and print that's real super pretty.
Yep.
So, but we are grateful for you. We are grateful for Thanksgiving. We are thankful this Thanksgiving for you, our family. And we just love you. You guys are the reason why we do this every week and more often than every week. And if you have anything that you need to ask us, you can reach out to Bobby or myself on our websites, bobbyparish.com, athenamoberg.com, and as you know, we have our project website, nomooreshameproject.com, and just click on the little contact tab and send us a message.
Yes.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. We'll see you again.
All right. Aloha.